Mystery of unseen beings. If you look across literally any era and continent, any culture, you're going to find this overwhelming consensus. Humanity has consistently sensed that the visible world is really only a fraction of reality. We've just always had this gut feeling that there's something or someone lingering just beyond our sight. You know that feeling, right? You're walking through a dense, completely silent forest, or maybe you're just sitting alone in a dark room and suddenly the hairs on the back of your neck stand straight up. Are we truly alone in the dark? Why is it that nearly every human culture, even those separated by vast, uncrossable oceans and thousands of years, senses these entities hiding out in the shadows? This isn't just some weird quirk of ancient history. It is a fundamental, shared human experience that absolutely demands a closer look. I mean, just think about the sheer and dizzying variety of unseen beings out there. We've got the jinn from the Islamic world, the Huldufolk, the hidden people of Iceland who are kind of akin to fairies, the yakshas in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, the Pukwudgi in indigenous American lore, the Hawaiian Aumakua, the Slavic domovoi, and honestly, we are barely scratching the surface here. Whether we're talking about nature spirits or beings that act a lot like angels, the sheer volume of global folklore describing invisible, conscious beings sharing our space is staggering. It's like a crowded room we just can't quite see. The universal unseen and guardians of the landscape. Let's dive right into this because these beings aren't just random fairy tales. Across the globe, they serve highly specific, incredibly practical functions in the external world. If you step back and kind of map out this vast, unseen world, a really clear taxonomy starts to emerge. Different spirits basically handle different departments of human life. You've got land spirits. Think of the Celtic Eos Sea, who actively police places like bogs, fields, or ancient mounds, demanding we respect the physical environment. Then stepping up a bit, you have divine guardians operating in the atmospheric realms, providing overarching moral guidance, and finally domestic spirits right there inside the home, keeping a very close eye on our day-to-day behavior. Let's actually look a bit closer at those divine guardians. The revered Hawaiian scholar Mary Kawina Pukui described the Aumakua, or ancestral guardian spirits, beautifully. She noted that, as gods and relatives in one, they give us strength when we're weak and a warning when danger threatens. So for Native Hawaiians, these aren't distant, abstract theological concepts. They're family. They're judges and protectors who actively watch over our actions, reprimand us when we mess up, and step right in to help when we're really struggling. The way these Aumakua interact with the living is incredibly specific. Pukui outlined 3 distinct types of strength they can impart. Picture a woman who is terribly sick in bed. Suddenly, she is filled with this temporary burst of energy called Uhanekahepua, or flower mantle energy, just long enough to get up and finish her essential chores. Or, in a true supernatural emergency, an entity might take complete possession of someone to save them, which is known as noho. And finally, imagine a totally mediocre dancer who is just suddenly overcome with ho'ulu, this divine inspiration that lets them achieve absolute greatness during a hula performance. It is a deeply reciprocal, empowering dynamic. Spirits of the hearth and the internal world. So, how does this build as we move from the grand external landscapes right through your front door and into the living room? Well, say hello to the domovoi. In Slavic tradition, this is a benevolent house spirit that hangs out right near the hearth or the stove. The domovoi acts as a household protector, helping villagers process grief, cope with the wild unpredictability of farming, and just manage the general chaos of life. But, and this is a pretty massive but, the domovoi demands harmony. If a family is constantly bickering and causing domestic drama, the domovoi will absolutely punish that neglect. They are literal enforcers of household ethics. So, to truly understand these cultures, we have to grasp their baseline reality. The anthropologist A. Irving Hallowell coined a brilliant phrase after spending time with the Ojibwa, other than human persons. This captures an animist worldview where the cosmos isn't just dead, empty matter waiting to be exploited. It is a vibrant, communicative community of persons. It demands that we humans engage with our environment, not with arrogance, but with really careful, reciprocal etiquette. The biological and cognitive baseline. Okay, but what does modern science make of all this? Let's pivot smoothly here and treat the scientific perspective with that exact same level of respect. Looking at the internal mechanics of the human brain, cognitive scientists generally bring two main theories to the table. First up is HADD, or the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device. This basically argues our brains evolved to be paranoid. Think about it. It is so much safer for your survival to mistake the wind rustling in the bushes for a hidden tiger than to mistake a tiger for the wind. We are literally hardwired for false positives. Then we have motivated mentalizing. This theory says it's not just a quick reflex. Humans actively apply human-like thoughts and motives to explain chaotic things like extreme weather or sudden disease because it makes this incredibly unpredictable world feel just a bit more familiar and manageable. And this brings us right to the work of David J. Hufford and his experiential source theory of belief. Hufford demands what he calls methodological symmetry. Basically, this means we can't just wave away traditional spirit beliefs as naive cultural fantasies. Instead, we have to look at the facts and treat both subjective first-person spiritual observations and third-person objective science with equal rigor. We need both data sets to actually understand what's going on. To see Hufford's symmetry in action, let's look at one of the most terrifying biological events a human can endure: sleep paralysis. Picture this. You wake up in the dead of night. Your mind is fully conscious, but you realize with mounting horror that your body is completely, totally paralyzed. Suddenly, you sense this terrifying, invisible presence in the room with you, and then you feel a crushing, suffocating weight pressing down directly on your chest. This visceral, horrifying sequence happens to human beings across literally all cultures. Because this biological baseline of sleep paralysis is universally shared by human bodies, cultures everywhere have created highly specific, localized interpretations for it. In Newfoundland, folks call it an attack by the old hag. For the Hmong people, it's the terrifying Dabtsog spirit. In Japan, they call it kanashibari, which means being bound by a spell. The raw, terrifying biological experience is exactly the same. It is simply the cultural framework that gives the unseen attacker its specific name, beyond the visible world. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, sure, that explains history and folklore, but modern educated people don't really experience this stuff anymore, right? Well, let's step into our modern context. A 2009 Pew survey highlighted this massive disconnect caused by modern cultural labels. If you go up to modern Americans and ask if they've ever seen a ghost, a lot of them will emphatically say no, mostly because the word ghost carries a ton of stigma in our society. But if you ask those exact same people if they've ever felt a real, tangible presence of a deceased loved one, the answers change completely. In fact, when framed that way, a staggering 29% of modern Americans surveyed said they have actually felt in touch with someone who has died. That is almost a third of the population. And you know what? The reporting of these extraordinary experiences is actually growing. Back in 1990, it was at 17%. By 2009, it jumped up to 29%. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean more spirits are suddenly appearing. Rather, it suggests that as concepts like after-death contacts and near-death experiences become a bit more mainstream, the modern stigma is slowly melting away. People are just getting more comfortable admitting they are still encountering the unseen. So, The really crucial takeaway here is what scholars refer to as the failure of the cultural source hypothesis. The old assumption was basically that spirit beliefs were entirely produced by traditional culture. And once we got all modern and scientifically educated, those experiences would just vanish. Poof. But the data proves otherwise. Modern science, secular education, and heavy skepticism simply haven't stopped people from having these profound core experiences. So, whether these encounters are just cognitive byproducts of an overactive evolutionary brain, universal biological phenomena wrapped up in colorful folklore, or genuine encounters with other than human persons, the unseen remains a deeply persistent companion to humanity. It leaves us to really ponder our own perceptions, doesn't it? Is the visible world truly all there is? Or is it, as so many cultures have sensed for millennia, only a fraction of reality? Thank you so much for exploring this mystery with me. Keep questioning, keep observing, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you for watching. Remember, you are worth the time it takes to slow down, listen within, and care for yourself. If you found this helpful, please subscribe for more mindful insights. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself.